Right, we're live. Welcome back, everyone. J Bone here for Smash This Podcast. Coming at you on a Wednesday evening, right after, well, not right after, after Dark Side of the Ring aired. Um, this is episode number 4, the Von Erich story or tragedy, whatever you want to call it. Oh man, it's this one was tough. I didn't take a lot of notes. I wrote down like the brothers' names because I was filling out other paperwork stuff that I had to do for tomorrow. So I was multitasking while I was watching this. Um, so I didn't write a lot of okay, this happened then and this happened then and whatever. But first of all, I just want to start off by saying this episode was very good, was very well done. I can't I can't imagine being the producers and trying to make this and um number one, it must have taken a lot of patience. And I don't mean that to insult Quinn Von Erich. I don't mean that in any way, shape, or form. But to sit there and hear him talk about everything and I just got done listening to a live Instagram feed of the producers talking, taking questions about tonight's show, which was really cool. I just happened to catch it accidentally on my phone, so as I was setting this up, I had playing in the background and listening to them talk about the show and other stuff, wrestling related. Um, by the way, they did say that because I asked them, I said, um, do you, is there plans for a season two? And they said, oh, we have plans. Absolutely, we have plans for a season two, but it's up to Viceland. And it's like, oh, okay. So if you guys want to see more episodes like you're seeing on Viceland, The Dark Side of the Ring, the series, hit up Viceland and tell them you want more, which I'm gonna do, you know, as well because this it's a very interesting series. I don't think anyone's. I mean, we've heard some of these stories before, but like I said, I always hear different opinions. You hear bits and pieces. I don't think anyone's ever done this thorough of an investigation and interview process and all this kind of stuff, trying to go back through history and make sure the real story is told about these tragedies. And these stories need to be told because even if you've heard some of these stories before, fans like me who are, hearing some of these stories for the first time, and I'm an older wrestling fan too, I'm 45. Um, it's it's really interesting and it shows you a different side. And I think it makes you appreciate others' um experiences in the industry. I don't know if I'm saying that right, um so yeah, and like I said, this is one story that I have heard before as far as you hear about the brothers and their tragedies. I don't think I've heard Kevin's side specifically from him. It's always been from other sources, um other people that have heard it secondhand, I guess you could say, you know, or that were not necessarily there, but um, were close to the family or close to the business. Andre's in the chat. What is up? cold cutthroat industry. Yeah, yeah, it can it really can be. It really can be. It's um yeah. So yeah, this first of all, the story of David and his um and in hearing this episode tonight, I know that I've heard these stories before, but you forget sometimes what happened to who. So this was actually very interesting. The fact that David went over to Japan, got sick, and died over there. Andre says tragic as well on so many levels and so different families with so much tragedy. Yeah, and you know that too, Andre, because you deal close at times with the Hart family and stuff like that. So you know it too. Um, Mike, now I'm trying to like keep all these stories straight. Mike had the broken, was it the broken arm? No, I feel like I'm gonna screw these up. Mike and Chris was the youngest one. Um, and it was also very interesting hearing about different opinions, like like the Lance Von Erich story. That's one that I don't think I've heard before. They didn't touch on it real deep, but they put it in there because it was just an example of they tried to build the family back up in the eye of tragedy and all this kind of stuff, and it just didn't work out. um and the one that I identify most with is Carrie, because I remember him being the Texas tornado, and I was really young back then. I was, well, not super young, but I'm trying to think of the timeline when they were showing the video of him in the WWF back then. It was like 1990, I believe they said. So I was in high school, and by the time high school hit, I wasn't watching as much, I don't think. Um, and pretty much right after high school, I had almost completely tuned out of wrestling, and I didn't get back into it until the late 90s in the midst of the Attitude Era. So, but I remember the Texas tornado. And when you're young and you see the WWF for what it is, and it's looking at wrestling back then is so different than than watching it now, because now you have social media and you have witness to like a million different opinions out there and people sharing stuff and different ways of viewing things. Back then, you took everything as at face value. It was on your TV, and that was it. There was no other like, oh, now I'm gonna go watch this podcast and watch these guys review this like what I'm doing, or it was just nothing like that. Nothing. So when you see a guy like Kerry Von Erich, and then you see him get transformed into the Texas tornado, and they don't call him Kerry Von Erich anymore. And I'm a kid, and I had no clue about any of these tragedies because I didn't, grow up down south. I'm a Wisconsin guy, but I had no clue about the Von Erich stories or anything. So when they changed his name, and then after, I don't think I realized much later what happened, um, to Kerry, that he killed himself. Um, didn't even think about why they would have called him that, or you just don't think about those things. You just like, oh, they changed his name. Oh, okay. Things are so, I guess you could say, simpler back then, in a sense, when you were watching compared to now, and you have all these different sources of social media and such. Same, we're just reading Andre's thing here. When it comes to trying to garner that same respect, they shouldn't have created a character, Lance von Erich. Once the community figured out everything, it was the last straw. Yeah, that they did touch on that. They said it was one of the last things that really kind of hurt the company. That the WCCW, I believe that's what it was back then. Carrie's daughter Lacey's most beautiful woman I've ever seen in wrestling over the years. Yeah, she was in TNA a handful of years ago, wasn't she? Or maybe a little longer than that. Something like that. Yeah, I remember that. I think wasn't that like right before, wasn't that right before Hogan came in or something? Maybe, oh, I guess it's more than a handful of years ago. 10 years ago? Something like that. Um, it was also really cool. Not that they're part of the tragedy, they're part of the family kind of, for lack of better words, I'll say comeback, or just trying to keep some kind of positive name on the legacy of the Von Erichs, and that's the sons of Kevin Von Ross and Marshall. Now, speaking of TNA, and they were in TNA a couple of times. I think they did a couple shows, and Kevin made an appearance or something. And they said Kevin had his final match in the ring, match or appearance, I guess you could say, was a couple years ago over in Israel. That was interesting. Um, Man, and I've seen matches with Ross and Marshall. I don't know why. I mean, I haven't seen a ton of their matches. I've probably seen a handful of them, but they're talented kids. I don't understand why no one has signed them yet. I guess, I don't know. I haven't heard any interviews why they haven't been, or any of that. I don't think I really want to try to speculate why, or maybe because of their family legacy, they don't want to get that big in the wrestling industry. That's a guess. I really don't know. Um, but the kids are talented. I've been saying it for years. Whenever it came up as something crossed my eyes, as far as a match or an appearance or something, I'm like, man, yeah, what's up with these guys? But I guess they live by their dad, either or with their dad or somewhere in Hawaii, I guess. And I was like, wow, it's got to be one of the most beautiful places on earth, and just to be away from everything. And I get that. I really get that. Kevin probably not wanting to be around. I mean, not that he's, didn't like the fans, but you grow up in an area that has so much family tragedy and such, and you can't blame him for wanting to be away from it, as far away from it as possible, to try to find some kind of peace and tranquility in life. It's got to be damn near impossible for him. But it looks like he's found it in Hawaii. Um, they showed some of his property, and they showed him like climbing one of his trees on his property that he spends a lot of time in, and just kind of meditating, hanging out, whatnot. Um, I get it. You know, years ago when I heard he like moved out there, I was like, wow, why? I get it now. I totally get it. Um, if I went through all that with my family, and my family's gone through some stuff, but I don't think anything of the fight can remotely close to the volume of that kind of tragedy. My goodness, that's just crazy. I think the most emotional part of this whole episode is just seeing the look on Kevin's face as he's telling these stories. And it's, and the fact that, they could have edited it out, but they didn't. They left it in. One of the times where he's like, "Hey, can you guys just hang on and just let me take a break for a little bit? I'll be like, 10, 15 minutes." And in listening to the producers, like I said, I was listening to the Instagram um, thing with the producer, and they said he actually did that several times. So that interview actually took a lot longer than expected. Is completely understandable, and they weren't saying that in a mean way. They were just saying how difficult it was for him to get through the whole story. When you're talking about every brother and what happened to all, and I didn't even know about the little brother. I don't think that's hardly brought up at all. And that's the first I've ever heard of it. Lose a little brother that was, what did they say, 3, 4, something like that, electrocuted and died in snow. That's crazy. I can't even imagine that. I mean, I've lost a kid, but to you know, I guess you experience it different as a father than you do a brother. You know. Thanks for stopping by, Andre. You take care, man. Hey, Jackson, what's up? so, uh, so yeah, I wanted to give my thoughts on this one. The next one, there's 2 episodes left um of Dark Side of the Ring. There's Hernandez, and I have no clue who he is. So I'm really going into that with just a blank slate. Like, okay, who's this guy? But they said it kind of revolves around the World Championship Wrestling or the WCCW, because all these guys were kind of close together in that same time frame. Brody, the Von Erichs, Gino Hernandez, um, and they all kind of, because they did talk about Bruiser Brody coming back from Japan and talking to. That's one thing I almost forgot to mention. They mentioned Bruiser Brody coming back from Japan and telling Kevin about David, and then they showed footage of the tribute over in Japan and about David. It's like, wow, that's crazy. Lacey on the show? No, Lacey was not on the show. Kevin's sons were on the show though, briefly. Um, you saw them and they were talking about them a little bit of family wrestling footage with them as well. So, but no, Lacey was not on there. Excuse me. That's that I believe that's Carrie's daughter. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's Carrie's daughter. Chris Adams. Oh, Chris Adams. Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Okay. Yes, she is. Okay. Um, so yeah, this was a very like I said, this was a very sad, emotional one. Um, I'm not gonna go through all the brothers' details and all that stuff. You watch the episode and you'll get it. Um, I'm forgetting a few things, uh, but yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to next week's. Very cool that the producers did a live Instagram interview thing. You could ask them questions about um, the show and stuff. I don't know if that video is replayable on their Instagram. I'm still learning about Instagram. It's not that hard to figure out, but I'm doing it live stuff, so you can go to the Dark Side of the Ring on Instagram and check that out if you so care to. But yeah, it was very cool. It was informative. Like I said, they are planning us. I did ask them about a season 2. They are planning one. They just have to get it cleared with the channel Viceland that it airs on. So, like I said, if you want to see, if you want to see more of the series, hit up Viceland or check it out. Hit them up, tell them about it. So yeah, and for all the new subs, thank you for subbing. We had like 10 new subs in the last 24 hours. Crazy. Thank you. I'm assuming that's off of the John Moxley breaking news that came out late last night. I was excited to see that, and please don't take this as bragging. It was just I was trying to get the stuff out as quick as possible. I think the only person that beat me on YouTube was Joe Cronin. So um, it helps to get the stuff out there quick. So and the views, my goodness, over 600 views before I went live here. That's crazy. So thank you everyone who checked it out. Yeah. John Moxley's making a lot of headlines. I knew it would. So thanks again for tuning in. If you're digging the content, we're going to catch up on some MLW stuff tomorrow, watch full episodes, talk about some highlights, especially with the latest one, the most current one. And we'll talk about an updated card for the Milwaukee Brewery Road. We got some information on that today. So tune in tomorrow for that. Not sure when. Probably tomorrow night. We'll see. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all for tuning in. Cheers. Much love to you all. And we'll see you down the road real soon. Don't forget to smash that like button, smash that sub button, and ring that bell for notifications so that you know when more of my content hits your screen. See you, folks.